Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Atsuko Ichikawa, one of the Education USA advisors in Tokyo. I will be a moderator for today. Today's session is hosted by Education USA Tokyo. June is Pride Month, so today we will talk about diversity on the US campuses, focusing on LGBTQIA+. Before we start, let me briefly introduce Education USA. Education USA is a US Department of State network of over 400 advising centers in more than 170 countries and territories. The network promotes US higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about opportunities to study at accredited post-secondary institutions in the United States. In Japan, we have 6 Education USA centers at the US Embassy and consulates. If you have any questions, please contact Education USA near you. So now please join me in welcoming two speakers not only two, but two speakers for today. Ms. Sandy Kelly from Ithaca College and Ms. Pamela A. Woods from California State University, Long Beach. So now I will hand it over to Sandy.
Great, thank you so much. Again, my name is Sandy Kelly. I'm Associate Director in the Office of Admission at Ithaca College. And I'm delighted to be here tonight to talk about our resources and the things that we do on our campus to make sure that we have a community that is welcoming and a place where all of our students can succeed. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the services that we provide. And I'm going to, hold on one second, I need to get my slide there. Just to give you a little bit of context, Ithaca College is located in the state of New York. So even though it's in New York, we are about 4 hours by car from New York City. So we're located in the center of the state, and it is a small city. Some people might not think it's a city. It's about 100,000 people live in this community. But it is very much a college town. In addition to our campus, which has about 5,000 students, Cornell University is also located in Ithaca. So it is a community where we have people coming from all over the world to study at our 2 campuses. And specifically today, we want to talk about the commitment to LGBTQIA+ students. And it starts with the institutional commitment, and the Ithaca College non-discrimination statement is here. And you will see that it includes many areas of that we would not allow discrimination. That includes sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. So with that institutional commitment, how does this college implement the non-discrimination for LGBTQIA+ students? And so the primary way that we monitor and provide support and continue to make sure that we're providing a safe campus is done through our Center for LGBT Education, Outreach, and Services. The center will be celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. So it was started in 2001, probably before some of you were even born. And it's grown and continued to serve in many different capacities. I do want to specifically acknowledge the work of the director, Luca Maurer, who is so instrumental in providing support and making sure that Ithaca College is recognized as being a safe and effective learning community for LGBTQIA students. So you'll see on this slide a list of the services that the center provides. And there are many ways in which the center provides services. It could be events, it could be dealing one-on-one with students, being a resource for students to go to get connection, to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. A very important service that the center provides is to work with other offices on campus to ensure that no matter what the purpose of the office on campus, that they're being aware of being supportive of LGBTQIA students and their support. And so I'm going to go through a little bit more about what some of those services, what they look like when those services are provided. So for gender neutral facilities and support, we have gender-friendly restrooms. So those are more than 50 in the academic and administrative buildings. So that doesn't even count the ones that are in the residence halls. And there's more than 50 across our campus. And they can be identified on the campus map. So if you pull up the campus map on our website, you can put an overlay that shows you where the gender-friendly restrooms are on campus. We make sure that students are able to use their preferred name and pronoun in their communication and in classrooms. So if a student wants to use a pronoun the student can use the pronoun of their choice, and that could be he, his, she, hers, or they, them. And if they prefer to use a name that is other than the name that they were given at on their legal documents, we ensure that that is the name that is used. We have transgender and non-binary housing options. So for campus housing, which most of our students do live on our campus, they are able to select housing options that are not gender or assigned based on gender. And then a resource that I think is just one example, it's not, none of these lists are going to have all of the resources, but are more examples of things that are done. We have a speech language pathology program and a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And one thing that they've done is worked with transgender individuals on voice modification. So it's an example of the resources available to students are not limited to the one center or one office, that they truly are across campus. And we have many student organizations and activities. This list is, again, not inclusive, and it grows and expands on each day and each year. So we want to have fun, we want to learn, and we want to celebrate. So these organizations are examples of student organizations that work to address issues, to provide support, and provide celebration. A couple that I would highlight is the Created Equal organization. And so this is for students and allies of LGBTQA plus students who want to work on issues related to inclusion, and also do events both on campus, in the larger community, and in fact, in the nation. Another example is the Spectrum, which is a group for anyone who is looking at wanting to identify as bi, or thinking that they may be. So it's a safe opportunity for students to have those discussions and make connections. And one of the most important things, I think, is to talk about allies. I identify as an ally of the LGBTQIA plus community, and I think it's so important that those of us who are allies are involved and are working to ensure that the campus is an inclusive place for LGBTQIA plus students. Because if maybe even more so, those of us who are not directly involved in the community need to be sure that we're being inclusive, that we're not making assumptions, and that we provide support for everyone. So some of the ways that that's done on our campus is there are workshops, panels, and resources through the Center for LGBTQ Education that works to ensure that there are safe or LGBTQIA friendly classrooms and workspaces. So one example of how that's done is there are ZAP panels, which are Luca Maurer, our director, and students will go to classrooms or go to offices and just have a discussion about, how we can be sure that we're not being exclusive, that we're including all of the staff and students in our conversations. We also have safe space decals. So those of us who have offices can display a decal that says, that we would provide a safe space. People can talk openly, come talk to us about any issues that they may be identifying. We use pronoun identification when we introduce ourselves. So if I'm introducing myself and our president's hosts who do our campus tours will introduce themselves, they'll always identify what the pronouns that they prefer to use. And then there's also resource and support for families of our students. So I mentioned that we have lots of events that are on campus throughout the year. There's a Welcome Back Social specifically hosted by the LGBT Education Center for students and allies. We have speakers. We have a great film series that focuses on films related to the LGBTQIA community. One of my favorite things is the Rainbow Reception, and this is for graduating seniors who are identified as LGBTQIA, and they can celebrate with the group during right before graduation, and they can choose to wear a cord during the graduation ceremony that identifies them as being part of that community. So, and finally, just want to give some brief, we can talk about this a little bit more about college search resources. If you're thinking of colleges, looking at colleges and want a little bit more information about the environment on campus, of course, campuspride.org is a great resource that provides information on LGBTQ friendliness on college campuses. I also encourage students to just go on the attend a presentation. You can do that virtually now. Go on the website, read the campus newspaper. Because one of the things that I think is important is if you're attending a general campus information center, what is in there about LGBTQ support for the school? Is there anything mentioned? So it's you can always search out the center and get the information from the center, but what does the sort of regular presentation say about the services for LGBTQIA students? And then also work and ask to make connections with current students, faculty, staff, and alum. I work in the admission office. I'm always happy to talk with students, but I also want prospective students to be able to talk with others so that they get a varied perspective on what it's like to be on our campus. So I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Pamela for the next presentation.
Greetings, I am Pamela Lewis, she, her pronouns, and I am the Senior Director, Multicultural Affairs and Inclusion. And I do have my team represented here as well, and they will introduce themselves shortly. But we are presenting to you on diversity on the US campuses. So California State University Long Beach is one out of 23 in our California State University system. In the state of California, we have 3 systems, which is the University of California, and then we also have the California Community Colleges. But we are located in Southern California in the beautiful city of Long Beach, California. And we will take you through, and that is our new mascot who is dancing. And so in our first, in regards to our services, we do have Office of International Students and Scholars Services. This would be your primary point of contact if you decide to bless us to come to California State University Long Beach. And it's where you'll get your advising, your housing, your employment, and health insurance. It is basically your comprehensive one shop to be able to where you don't have to go to too many departments to get an answer, a quick answer, but they are primary there for our students who come from different areas to make sure we can make Long Beach where they feel welcome, included, and make your college experience amazing. And then we have, and I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Hello, good afternoon, konnichiwa. My name is Joel Gutierrez, he, him, his. I have the honor of serving as a director for the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Our office has multiple student cultural centers, one of them being the LGBTQIA+ Student Cultural Resource Center. That's a space where students come to gather, to communicate. And our office is really there to educate, connect, and advocate for all students, particularly for this center, for those that are identified as LGBTQIA or even allies and those who want to get more information. I'll kick it off to Brooke for our Women and Gender Equity Center.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Vaughn. I use she, her pronouns. So I am currently a graduate student and I work as a program assistant at the Women's and Gender Equity Center. I loved Cal State Long Beach so much that I went there for my undergraduate degree and I'm now here again as a graduate student. So at the Women's and Gender Equity Center, our mission is to inform and promote gender equity affairs among our campus community. So some of our services include in-person and virtual events, workshops, and we provide an open space on campus and much more. And it is all rooted in self-empowerment, community, and advocacy. So we are dedicated to serve all students on campus. And please feel free to reach out and follow us to stay connected. I'll include our contact information and social media platforms at the end. I'll now pass it along to Pamela, who will begin highlighting our LGBTQ services on campus.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Joel, for joining me. I appreciate you both. Do you want to go to the next slide? So we are on our Campus Pride Index, when Sandy had mentioned, we are 4.5 out of 5 stars. And it is definitely broken down to different categories. And so with our LGBTQ+ support and institution commitment, we do have a Safe Zone Ally training that has been on our campus for several years. Many students, many faculty, many staff have went through the program, and we're really lucky to have the sticker that we can say that we are, becoming one on our campus. As Joel mentioned, in his area, he does have the LGBTQ+ Student Cultural Resource Center, where we do have kind of like a peer-to-peer model as well, but where we're really giving them the resources on our campus to thrive and succeed through their college experience. Also, on our campus-wide, we have the Campus Climate Committee, and they have a subcommittee for our LGBT+ community. And we have amazing faculty scholars who are doing this work every day that helps us as student affairs practitioners bring items theory to practice, and where we're definitely able to make that holistic development experience for our students. This recently, we did a gender inclusive training that we put on. It was a collaboration between our President's Commission on the Status of Women and the Women's and Gender Equity Center. And in our inaugural cohort, we had over 60 different individuals, faculty, staff, and students go through that training. So everyone has the idea to becoming more inclusive in different capacities. We also have the CARES team, which is led by our Dean of Students, to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students who are in crisis or just needing assistance in different areas. Our basic needs program is amazing. They have grown substantially with their programs and just the offerings, to where, especially during COVID, they definitely met the need and are still continuing to meet the need of our students as much as they can, even if it's through grants, donors, our colleagues in that department are definitely making sure that our students are taken care of. And then one thing I love is our cultural graduations. At the end, we have 9, and we have the Lavender Cultural Grad, and it is amazing to see them to be in their space and be their authentic self with their families and friends, celebrating their amazing accomplishment of graduating from Cal State Long Beach. In regards to policy inclusion, we do have a non-discriminatory statements. Recently, our CSU system-wide did a name change policy. We do have gender neutral language on campus resolution, which our campus, our academic senate, voted on, and we have been being on different committees that are looking at policies. That can definitely say that is something that we are definitely being intentional about and reading. And then we have the Office of Equity Diversity, which is for faculty, staff, and students. And that is where you can definitely, if you're harassed, discriminated against, retaliation, this is your area to go to make sure they can receive your complaints and then be able to investigate those matters to make sure that it does not, if it is warranted, that it's not happening again on our campus. So that is a very important space to have on our campus, and we're lucky to have the colleagues that we have in there. And next, I will, next slide. Is this also me? Okay, and then we have our campus and safety. So we do have crime prevention and awareness. We have different deadlines that we have to make sure this information is readily available, transparent, especially for students who are either living out of the state or out of the country. This is something families want to know. And so we are definitely one of many institutions who make sure that information is available. We do have a full-time confidential victims advocate, which is within the last, I believe, 2 years, started out with a grant for Not Alone at the Beach. And we are very fortunate to have Jacqueline and other colleagues to be our victim advocate. We do have campus shuttle service. Yes, it was due to COVID. It was on a pause, but we are very glad that we are slowly repopulating our campus to where we're sure those services will be available to help in those when students have night classes, that sometimes it's late and you want to be able to get from one point to another safely. So we do have campus shuttle service, but we also have community officers that will escort our students from one location of campus to their car. Our campus is very, many acres. I believe it's 322. So that is a lot of walking. And so we just want to make sure that we have as many points on campus covered as much as we can to ensure or do the best we can to have a safe campus. Our academic life also, we have thriving women's gender sexuality studies major and queer studies major by our phenomenal faculty, and that we get to work with many students through that program in our center as interns. So our academic life and student affairs, definitely we bridge that gap and work together to be able to offer many services to our students.
I had to find my mute button. Thank you for your patience, y'all. In terms of counseling and health, we provide various counseling and support groups through our counseling and psychological services department, one of them being Rainbow Cafe, a group of individuals supported by trained licensed professional counselors who meet regularly to discuss anything and everything that's going on in their lives and provide them with positive techniques to go throughout their day at Long Beach and beyond the beach. We also have trans health services through our student health center, for those individuals who are looking for supportive health services. We also have an LGBTQIA plus inclusive health information that can be found for all of our students, staff, and faculty on our websites, but also within our CAPS counseling and psychological services and our student health centers. Pamela, I believe you're up next with the housing.
So housing and residential life, I did work, I've been on campus 20 years, so I've worked in different functional areas, and housing and residential life was definitely one of my, a thrill to work in. They are currently renovating where they are expanding our spaces on campus, which is very, very exciting. But they do offer an international house, which is an area that a lot of our international students or our students who are doing study abroad will stay, but you are able to stay in different communities throughout housing and residential life, but it is a space to really get to know and be aware of different areas across the world, right, that are coming here and being able to understand and learn through various programming that they do within the iHouse. We do have gender neutral housing. There's roommate matching, where when you apply, you're able to your preference of roommates and what you would like to learn. And they try to match those up as much as possible. Trained staff, the resident assistants, they have college graduate students also, and then the full-time staff who diligently work to get trained on matters within the LGBT plus community. There's different housing, different themes. And I just think based on our president's priority to be an inclusive, excellent campus, we all are doing our best to make sure we are looking at that within our respective area and that it is going throughout our campus. So that is our housing and residential life. I believe we're going to be about almost 3,000 students, if I'm not mistaken, on campus with the new room. So very excited for that.
So as a current and former student, and also as a member of the LGBTQ community, I can speak saying that I've always felt supported by this campus, and I'm very excited to share some of the student life with you all. So here are some opportunities to get involved on the campus. We have a few student organizations dedicated to the LGBTQ population. So one of them is Queer and Allies, and that's just a safe space for all individuals, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. We also have our CSULB Transgender Empowerment and Advocacy, or T for short, which is a resource for trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, genderqueer, questioning, or anyone else along those spectrums. We also have a fraternity on campus for men that identify as queer, gay, or bisexual, Delta Lambda Pi. And then there's also many, many educational events and social activities. Some of my favorites include our October celebration, which we had virtually this past year. Some of the events included drag bingo. We also had a queer prom. So those are just some fun events you could go to. We also have Respect Diversity Week. And I do want to be mindful of time, but I do have a short clip that gives you a little sneak peek of our campus life. So let me play that for you now.
Welcome to Counseling. Since 1956, we've committed to enhancing student college experience. We want you to enjoy, play, work, and lead with us. From volunteering to work opportunities to student government to the student rec center, there's always something for everyone. Rather than talk about it, we'll show you what we're all about. Make sure to stay up to date on all things ASI by following us at CSUOB ASI. This is where the latest news will be announced, from concerts and special events to services and deals on campus. Hope to see you this semester. And as always, go Beach.
So those are just some of the fun events we have on campus here. And I also wanted to share, so we do have gender neutral facilities on campus. I made a QR code, so hopefully that works for you there. If not, there is a link directly to the page that I could put in the chat as well. And I will now pass it back to Pamela.
So that is a little bit about California State University, Long Beach. We always say go Beach in our closing that we are doing presentations. My apologies, my dog just heard a car backfire. We want to thank you all for your time, and we will turn it over to Q&A right now and answer accordingly.
Thank you so much. I mean, I learned a lot, and I was just surprised to know that how US campuses are so inclusive. I mean, I'm doing this job almost 20 years now, but still I'm learning. So please, if you have questions, please type your question in the Q&A box. If you can type it in English, that would be great. But if you can only write in Japanese, I will translate. So you can also type the question in Japanese as well. So let me go through the questions. Okay, one of the questions I already answered by Joel, but are there gender neutral pronouns? What is most commonly used? And is it, so it's they and them. Is it same for Sandy?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it would be for across the community. I mean, we're going through changes, you know, as a culture, as a language of trying to, you know, break out of ways of speaking and identifying. And so if you see why I say, you know, I use she, her, is so that if somebody would know that that's, you know, how to address me, but I might decide that I didn't want to be identified either as male or female, and then I would say they, them.
Thank you. So I realized, I mean, the participants also probably realized, but everybody has, like after the name, they have the pronouns that they want to be addressed. So this is very helpful. Thank you. So let me go through the questions. The first question, do LGBTQ students participate in college sports? Do they join the team by the biological sex? I think you mentioned about transgender sports club, I believe, but can someone answer to this question?
As Sandy was saying, I think everything, you know, is evolving. I think currently they join based on their biological sex. I think for a system as we are in, it will be kind of taken up through our system wide in regards to, because we're under that, like I said, we're one of 23 campuses. But that is definitely something we will go back and look and even see if we've had instance where that has come up in our system.
So certainly within our athletic teams, LGB students participate, and there's actually an organization at Ithaca to support gay students who are part of athletic teams. In terms of transgender, there is a governing body in the US called the NCAA. So colleges and universities have to follow the rules related to NCAA. And this is really an area that I think right now, there's a lot of discussion. There's court cases going on, challenging whether a transgender person can compete in NCAA sports. So if the campuses have a certain amount of say, for instance, in their club sports, you know, what are in intramural sports, but then there's another governing body that we have to, you know, follow the rules for that group. And it really is changing, you know, probably in the next couple of years, there'll be clarification on this because there's a lot of discussion about this right now.
Thank you.
Hopefully that wasn't too complicated.
I think it's helpful, I think. Thank you. Okay, next question is, I'd be happy if you could share me a picture of a gender-friendly restroom. I love to know what it looks like, but if we go to the university website, is there a picture?
We dropped the link. I don't know if there's a picture. I believe it just shows where they're located in regards, but it's just, yes. So there's no pictures, I know. I think it's just where the location.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And I could follow up on our campus, mostly that means that's a single person uses the restroom. So there, you know, there isn't a group, you know, other people are not using the restroom at the same time. So it's not identified for either gender. Anyone can use that restroom. That may be clarified a little better.
Thank you. So is it also friendly for the students with the disabilities? Or it's a different story?
Everything is ADA compliance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me go through the questions and okay, so in Japan, same-sex marriage is not allowed. Is it possible for same-sex partners to be seen as dependent? Is a same-sex couple eligible for on-campus family housing?
We currently don't have family housing at California State University, Long Beach. I know it has come up more as we're also looking to be a family-friendly campus. And so I'm sure that will be conversations as we go and expand our housing in regards to more building construction. So currently right now, we do not have family housing at Cal State Long Beach.
So, and maybe, I'm not sure if this was the question, but we do have what gender neutral housing. So two men, I mean, regardless of how you identify gender, you can choose to live with another student as long as they choose to live with you. So there's not there's not sectioned off all female or all male residence halls. There is an option for an all female, but that's a choice, and students can choose to live in the non-gender designated areas also.
Okay, thank you. So regarding the campus housing, I think you also mentioned about like how to match roommate, but to match roommates, are there any special arrangements or consideration for LGBTQ students?
They ask for their preference when they're filling out the application. It's not guaranteed because they receive so many applications, but it is a way to at least give a consideration. And so they'll just ask their preference. I don't know the questions specifically, but they just ask for their preference in regards to a roommate, of what they're looking for, et cetera. And they'll do their best to match if it's within, if they have the space and they're able to accommodate.
Thank you. Let's see. So only if the pandemic gets better, I'm planning on studying abroad in LA this year as a transfer student. Is it possible to join those activities from outside? I think from different university or different colleges?
Yes, some of them are open. You can keep us as a resource. So when you do come, just email us and we can let you know which ones are open to the public and which ones are like CSULB specific. But we would definitely like to be a part of your welcoming community, just coming to California, period, and being in LA.
Thank you. So Sandy, at New York, is it also possible for other institutions, students to join your campus activities?
Yes, in some cases. And so particularly in this community, Cornell University is just 2 miles away. So there are activities and events that are combined between student groups on both campuses. So for instance, during Pride Month, they'll work with the Cornell group. I mentioned the one group that is, specifically for that students who are of the Jewish faith and in the LGBTQIA community work with the Hillel group at Cornell. So there's just a number of different ways that students connect, and then also with our community. And so, as I mentioned, we're a college town, so there isn't a lot of separation between the town and the campus. Almost everybody who lives here is connected to one of the campuses. So, the students are involved in the local government and all of the theater organizations and activities in the community as well. So if a student is living in this community, they're going to have the opportunity to connect with students and student organizations.
I will also add, specifically for Los Angeles, we do have as much of the social events that Sandy was saying, definitely. And also we have within our LA region a conference. So we have it's called the QTPOC, Queer Trans People of Color conference every summer. With COVID, it went virtual, but that is where other students from a large part of our California and even Arizona states come together for this regional yearly conference. So there's plenty of ways to get involved. And I think also too, with our students, and Sandy may agree, is because with Instagram and all our social media, students from the trans LGBTQ community are just connecting in various ways. So you will never be alone.
Thank you. Let me see. Okay. Let me skip some questions. And first, related to the housing, do you think most of the parents are supportive about the gender neutral dorms? I work at Japanese university, and I believe that we should start discussion on making a part of our residence hall to be gender neutral. However, I assume that there would be some parents who are not happy about that idea. So the question is, do you think most of the parents are supportive about the gender neutral dorms?
I guess I would say that I'm sure there's all kinds of opinions about it. And part of what I think is so important that our director, Luca Maurer, does is really also provide services for students and if parents are open to providing support for parents in terms of working through questions, feelings. You know, sometimes these are challenging for parents, for students. And so I think we probably have students in all different, or parents that have different experiences, different feelings along with students. And so one of the most important things is to provide support for the students, help the students work within their family. So the counseling services, the resources that are available really support students in that way.
And I could also speak to that as well as someone who comes from a home where my parents weren't as supportive. Definitely Cal State Long Beach provided that space and support for me. And once you're a student on that campus, you can feel the support, you have the services available, and you could really find your community there. And we also do provide opportunities for students, staff, faculty, and also, and they spread the word over at home to learn more about those, having those difficult topics in conversations. So I can definitely attest to that, where I always felt supported on campus.
Thank you. So it's also related to the discussion previously. Sometimes it is difficult for international students to come out their LGBTQ identities to others, since their home countries are not so open like the US. What kind of services do you provide to such international students who cannot open their identities?
I think as Sandy mentioned, one of the reasons why we have these centers, these student resource centers and these services, is really to provide that support that's within the question, right? Amongst other things, as Brooke has mentioned too, you know, family obligation, society. So I think that's part of the reason why these centers exist, to provide that emotional support, the connection to resources, whether it's through psychological services, counseling services, and also within our international office. So we partner a lot with our international students. That's an identity that I do not have. I am not an international student, so I don't know exactly what goes through the thoughts, ideas, and minds of international students. And we will connect them. So I think that's the support we provide, is ensuring that all our students at the beach are supported in what they want to do, supported in how they want to express and how they want to open with their identity.
And I would say, you know, every person has their own experiences and are coming to their identity and bringing all of their identity to, you know, the their college experience. So there are, you know, it seems, and I'm sure on some measure it's true that in the US it's an easier process or more accepting, but among US students, there's going to be students who's come from a religious background or a cultural background, and are going to go through some of the same, you know, experiences. So being sensitive to the process that is really an individual process, regardless of whether you're an international student or a US student. For some students, and I've known this from international students, they just come out and they live their life. And for many others, it's more of an ongoing process. And so one of the things about the center and the campuses is these resources are available to you. You're not required to do any of these things, but we hope that you will utilize the resources that make the most sense for you.
Thank you. And last question, but if anyone has more questions, this is your last chance to write your questions in the Q&A box. So please do, if you have any questions. Okay. As of now, the last question. Do you think California and New York are the most LGBT-friendly states? Is it safe for a cross-dresser to walk down a street?
So in our community, there are transgender and people who dress in ways that you might not associate in gender specific ways. And they're definitely part of the community. But I also just want to say that we're all working towards creating this safer environment. So I don't want to pretend that it's perfect, that people do not experience, some prejudice or biases. So one of the things I think when we say it, at least when I think of our campus as being LGBT friendly, it's because we're paying attention and we're working on it all the time. So we still have work to do. We still have to make sure we're being inclusive and friendly. So, but, we've come a long way and I'm very proud of our campus for that.
I agree. And I think, it's not that a state is better than each other. I think we go by our culture, like every state has a culture and we have to kind of see where we are and then strive to be better, right? And so, and I think we're all doing that in our respective communities and then looking at what we need and where we need to go. And so I think you have to be safe wherever you are, right? It's just those times right now, but I would hope that they would feel comfortable and safe to be their authentic self, walking down any street in any state that they possibly would like to be.
Thank you. So one more question. I think during the, I cannot remember, from the Long Beach presentation, you mentioned about transgender health service. So I think it's really related to that, but for the student health management aspect, do you offer LGBTQ inclusive sex education as a kind of required class on campus? Sex education in Japan lags behind.
I don't think it's required as far as a lot of the class. It's not within our curriculum to graduate, like they have to take specific things to graduate. I'm trying to think through K through 12. I think it's included, but I cannot confirm that. I haven't worked in K through 12, but I think they still learn about sex education, but I'm not sure how it has been implemented in those discussions.
Thank you.
And I could add our health center staff is really trained to provide services for the LGBTQ+ community as well. So if you have any questions about sex education, they can answer that there. And all of our services, including our psychological services, are confidential. So if you find that you're questioning or you have to keep things confidential, all of our services will do that for you as well.
Thank you so much. So that was the last question. And again, I learned so much. And thank you so much for joining us today. In New York, it's almost midnight, right? And in California,
it is almost 9 o'clock, but Sandy is a rock star to join. We appreciate, and nice to meet you, Sandy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and hope everyone learned something new from today's presentation. And hopefully you will think about studying in the US. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Well, you want to take time out. Thank you for the invitation. Yes. And thank you for putting all this together. And I look forward to continuing our conversation because I really am interested to learn more about Education USA.
Thank you. So I think from today's presentation, we all learned that US colleges, universities are providing all students a positive environment. So thank you again. And I will finish the session now. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.